welcome everybody to the Space Command Epic Adventures panel. A panel so big it took 2 people to moderate it.
Yes.
On my left is Ellen Dubin.
And on my right is Joe Ackerman. You can look us up on IMDb because this panel is not about us. It's about these wonderful people here on the left.
So let us introduce them. To my immediate left, and as handsome a person as ever existed, Mark Zickery. To his left, even more handsome, is Ethan McDowell. To his left, even more handsome than that, is Brian McClure.
There's the handsome comment there.
Well, it's the amazing and beautiful Andrew Linnae. Stunningly attractive David series, starting with David Bartlett. David Edison.
That's Dave.
David Rakeland. And the lovely Howard Benjamin. Oh, Tahani. Tahani, fire everybody. Yay.
And we should also mention one person, which is Elaine Zickery, my co-writer, director, producer.
Without Elaine, you know, this wouldn't
Elaine is the
happen.
heart and soul of all of this.
Okay. Yes.
Very true.
Go ahead. What's the
Okay, so my first question for you is, Mark, we'll go down the line.
Sure.
How did this come to be for you? What was the birth?
When I was 10, Star Trek debuted, and that was a huge influence on me. And I got to go on the set, and I met Nichelle Nichols, all of those things that those who've been following me know about. But a few years ago, I realized that science fiction was very dystopic in the current crop of shows and movies, and when it wasn't dystopic, it was kind of like a little bit hit and miss. So I wanted to do a show that would be inspiring, that would say we can reach across boundaries and barriers, we can make a future worth living in. And particularly in these times of polarization, I thought it was super important to say there's an alternative where we can be inclusive and we can have hope. And so that was the start of it, and I saw it as this series that we could do, and I would bring in my friends from Babylon 5 and Star Trek, all these different shows I'd worked on, and but also reach out to new talent and people who might not have a way into Hollywood in general. And it's worked out great. There's these wonderful, talented people on the panel are proof of that.
So let's ask them. Everybody, what I'd like you to do is tell us what you did in Space Command specifically, and also how Space Command found you or how you found Space Command. Ethan?
Well, for me, just from an actor standpoint, you know, you always kind of try to look for opportunities. Sometimes you'll have representatives that'll do that for you, and sometimes it's just yourself kind of, you know, in the trenches trying to figure out, okay, am I making the right choice in life? But there was an opportunity for a worldwide talent search, and Mark and Elaine put this out to the world for anybody in the world for 2 roles, an opportunity to just audition and you know, cross your fingers and hope for the best.
Great story.
Yes.
And in that, it's just an opportunity where you just submit your audition tape, you throw it out to the world, and you cross your fingers and hope for the best. And then, sure enough, they shook our hands and said, yeah, you're the guys for the job. So
it's great.
And kudos to Mark and Elaine for doing something like to be open.
Yes.
And not always wanting to hire the same actors and keep it open.
Well, I knew I was going to be bringing Doug Jones and Robert Picardo and Mira Furlan and Bill Mumy, et cetera, aboard, Armin Shimmerman. And so I knew that we had the main talent. But I thought that because we were crowdfunded and because the world was financially making this possible, I thought, well, let's give the actors the chance, the worldwide actors who you know, really give them a shot, not just a walk-on, not just one line, but give them 2 of the leads.
Something substantial. That was great.
Yeah, and we ultimately cast 9 actors from those 7,000 inquiries, 1,200 videos, and Ethan and Brian. And
Brian, were you included in that?
Yes.
I was part of the talent search.
How did that come about for you?
Yeah, interestingly, like I'm a part of the table that Mark runs, a networking group that meets every Thursday for 30 years, is that right?
Yep.
So I was going to that when Mark had the inception of the idea of Space Command. But at that point, I was just trying to help out with Space Command as much as possible. And that was before, like right at the beginning when he was like, we're going to do a talent search for, you know, these 2 different roles. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. So I did. I was amongst the 7,000 that threw my hat in there. And me and Coley Mustafa Speaks, who's on, I think it's... what's the show he's on CW right now?
He's in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, he's killing it. But me and him did our audition together because we knew that the audiences were going to vote on it, so we thought it would stick out if we didn't do it like a traditional
And we
audition.
cast Coley as a synthetic on Doug's ship, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Amazing.
yep.
Cool.
Okay, Andra, how'd you get involved in all this?
Adam Sartain. We were working on another project together. That's how I met him. And he had just sent me an email and said, hey, I think you might be a good fit for this. And
Who's Adam? Who's Adam
a
Sartain?
lovely, wonderful human being.
He's one of our investors and works for us in many
Yes.
capacities on Space Command.
Amazing voice actor, yeah, too. So, so now he's gotten me involved in some other projects and things like that. So now he has this running thing of that I owe him an agent's commission at this point.
That's right, that's right.
Right. So yeah, and it's been a blessing. It's been so wonderful.
Wonderful. David, number one?
I am a part of the table group that they were mentioning earlier for almost 30 years now, and I've known Mark and Elaine for a long time. I've produced a number of independent films, and it seemed like a good fit to work on Space Command as producer. I've also done a lot of sound design on films like Total Recall and Speed and Pulp Fiction, and so it made sense to contribute in that aspect too. And then one day I was saying, well, you know, they've got these 2 dogs, and these little dogs love me, but they jump on me for 10 minutes every time I come over, and they're licking and
These
everything.
are our dogs.
Out of control. So I said, you should put the dogs in the film. So they said, okay, you're going to be in the film as an actor. Now, I have done a lot of acting before, but not so much more recently. So now I'm in the film with the dogs, and they play animatronic dogs that cannot be shut off.
Yes.
And I want them shut off, but they won't shut off.
It's really fun.
And I have a small scene as an actor as well.
Does that
Yes.
count as a stunt as well?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Yes, it does. I think it should be counted as Tom Cruise and David Bartlett.
Yeah.
I do all my own dog stunts.
Yes, yes. And that's in an
So-
episode we did called Ripple Effect, that during the pandemic, all of our actor friends were stuck at home climbing the walls, and so we actually did a 2-hour episode, a bonus episode, that we wrote specific scenes for our specific actors, and they shot them themselves with us directing long distance, and they were shooting it generally on their own cameras. And it was just to show that you don't have to be limited by what the world throws at you. You can be inventive. You can find ways to create art and reach out to people. And it was great fun. And David was very, very funny in that scene. And Dave Edison edited it, where it was just really, really great. So, yeah.
Speaking of amazing editor Dave Edison.
Yes.
Dave, how did you get involved in this?
Oh, well, part of that same roundtable that Mark and Elaine run, I volunteered to edit a table read of a screenplay that Mark had written, which is
Yes.
pretty good, and we'll hopefully get to lens that one of these days.
Yeah, it's called Pretty Good.
Yeah. Well, that's what I
There's
said.
also
It's
another one
pretty-
I wrote called
that's what I
Mediocre,
said.
and then one I wrote
Yeah,
that's
pretty
called
good.
It Just Stinks.
Yeah, I edited this, and there was one little tricky part of it that I showed Mark how I edited, and his eyes kind of lit up and go, okay, we're hanging on to this guy, and I ended up being the editor
Yeah.
of the aforementioned Space Command.
Yes, and it's really great fun. I mean, the new technology, you know, Dave comes over to our place, we hook up the computer to our TV, and we edit with Elaine and me and the dogs and Dave. And yeah, it's great.
And the wonderful who started music at 5 years old, David Raiklin.
Hi, everybody. I'm David Raiklin, and I'm a creator, producer, composer. I work in film, television, video games, live events, and augmented reality. I have had a lot of experience in doing all kinds of different kinds of movies, science fiction. I worked on the X-Files movie, and I worked also in television on Battlestar Galactica. Thank you. Please come up with the
please.
plackets.
Yeah.
And our first encounter was
Thank you.
at the table, that same networking group that has had so many different people and so many different locations over the years. And the first project I got involved with was actually a wonderful Star Trek episode called World Enough in Time. And on that one, I wore the hat of being a set constructor, a carpenter. I built the sets for part of that, the part that was shot out here, not the part that was shot at the sets in New York, which, you know, you can now actually take a tour of the set
Yes.
that was shot on. And someday there'll be a Space Command set tour as well.
Yes. Yes, that'll be
So
fun.
we're looking forward to that. And we seem to get along, and this was a project that Mark had been thinking about for quite a while, and I wanted to make it happen in whatever way was possible. And one of the ways that was possible is that I was the campaign manager for the original crowdfunding that
Yes.
set a record on Kickstarter for the most money raised for an original screenplay. And I also was the social media and the webmaster and the PR lead. In fact, I'm on the phone because the rest of our wonderful team, which is spread out through the city, I'm in touch with them to try and coordinate for all the things that are coming up after this wonderful panel. I've
meet our
probably
last-
gone
let's
on
meet our last
long
two
enough,
people.
except I'll say that science fiction and fantasy are my life, and they've always been my life, and I truly believe that it's the way that we envision our future. And if we imagine that our future will be positive, then it makes it ever so much easier to achieve that positive future.
Great.
Great,
Okay, that's
wonderful.
great.
Yeah.
Howard Benjamin is here, and Howard,
Yes.
our last two people on this panel are amazing in the various things they do. Howard, what about you? How'd you get involved in all this?
Once again, I was a part of the table, have been a part of the table for the last 14 years. And I met Mark and Elaine, and they commandeered me into doing a number of projects for them.
Howard is easily commandeered.
Yes.
Anything like hoodwinked?
And mega talent.
Kidnapped, Shanghai.
Yeah.
There's a lot of names for it.
Bailiwick.
Yeah. So I do sound on Space Command. I've done sound on every project that Mark and Elaine have done for the last 14 years, as far as table reads and things like that. And lo and behold, reading the script, I noticed that there was a part for a gentleman named Elder Howard. So I couldn't understand who that could possibly be, but it was me. So I had the great honor to do my scenes along with James Hong.
Yes.
Who was in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which won the
else.
Academy
Yes.
Award last year.
In fact, everything. He's in everything.
It was,
He's in everything,
and
he's brilliant.
his Space Command role was his 500th role.
Yes.
So talk about a career.
Yeah.
I'm a voiceover person. I've done hundreds of voiceovers for cartoons and commercials over the years, but I have a lot of sound gear, and
Yep.
I was handy.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
they used me.
Yeah.
And speaking of handy, the creative,
Yes.
Tahani Farr, welcome, last but not least.
Her participation in this is really cool.
It's really fascinating.
Yes.
Hello, hello everyone. Let me just pull this over a little bit.
There we go.
I am Tiani Farr, and meeting Mark and Elaine for me was a whole life changer. So I'm from Mexico, and I speak English because I learned English from my dad. I learned English from one person. But I've lived all my life in Mexico. So I first met Mark at my first show in the US. That was about 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I had never done a show in the US and hardly ever outside of Mexico. And I was so shy. Like, I was invited as part of a Mexican team of artists. And someone said, you have to go and meet people. And I started to walk around the convention by myself with some of my art, and I didn't know what to do. I was really shy to talk to anyone. And I saw Mark, and he had like a really cool booth. I liked the lights and the design. And I came up, or I'm not sure how it happened, but he ended up by saying, you have to get out there. And we started speaking a little bit at the convention, and then he invited me to one of his screenings, and he was like, your art is really good. Have you ever done a graphic novel? Have you ever done a comic? I had never done that at all. And he was like, would you like to start one? I had no idea. I hadn't even read many comics. but he believed in me in a way that no one else had believed me ever before. And we are now halfway through this massive graphic novel.
Yes.
I learned how to do comics thanks to Mark. And from having no one knowing me here in the US, now I'm fully booked across all the US shows in New York, Vegas, San Diego Comic-Con. It's
Yeah.
been really crazy for me, and it's all began with Mark. So it's an amazing team.
Yeah. And just to put this all in context, Comic-Con is about a lot of collectors, and people have various things they collect. And I collect people. And and so I'm like a Venus flytrap. You know, people come in and then I seal it up and that's it. But because of the table, because of all of these things, I'm always looking for people who have a good heart and also, you know, talents, abilities. And because Space Command has allowed me and Elaine to be basically at the top of the food chain, I don't have to ask permission from anyone, which is wonderful. I spent decades working in the studios and the networks, hundreds of hours of television. And it was a good experience. We had very good executives we dealt with. It wasn't negative in any way, but because Star Trek and Twilight Zone and Outer Limits were my inspirations, I wanted to be in a position where I could just create this wonderful universe and bring in people as collaborators and just have the full vision. And that's what this has been. So Space Command is a 12-hour season. We're just finishing shooting hour 6 now. And, but I also have a prequel, which was an audio play, which we then hired Tahani to do as a graphic novel, and then we combined them into what's called an animatic, which is like an animated storyboard. So it allows us to have a full expression in many ways. They're all part of the story, all part of what's called canon. So it's just a joy. And to have you all here, I mean, you know, it's as you mentioned, Elaine and I have been running the table for 30 years, and there's so many hundreds, if not thousands, of people we would not know if we had not created the table and then brought people in on Space Command as well. It's a dream come true for me. So
Hey, if I can jump in here, we have some video to show.
I guess we can start with the trailer for Redemption. Redemption is the first 2 hours of the show.
The soar up there, that's what it's about. We fly. That's what we cameras do.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the first of what will soon be legions of contented synthetic workers. We suffered a catastrophic incident at one of our mining facilities in the asteroid belt. And in the chaos that followed, one of our pieces of equipment suffered a serious malfunction and has gone missing.
We're kicking in the thrusters. Lieutenant Bradbury, match their speed.
Yes, sir.
I do not yet know what the ship might do if provoked.
You speak as if it were alive.
On occasion, machines are.
You've got him in your sights. Go after him.
You should not have saved my skin, Jack. He was counting on your humanity.
You doubt that I know my duty, Captain. You put it in your report.
You put that in yours. This is suicide.
That's the only way that we can rescue those hostages.
Stand down!
You'd vaporize everybody on Earth?
Our orders are wrong.
Slavery won't stand to go badly.
You let all your people die.
Even when faith is shaken, one can always hold on to hope.
Thank you. That's the first 2 hours. That's just the first 2 hours. And you can see and that's no studio, no network, just us, working and plugging holes and fixing things and coming up with solutions. And so the first season of Space Command is 12 hours. And as I said, we're finishing shooting hour 6 now. And then we have 5 other series waiting in the wings that we're creating with Rock Neil Bannon and the creators of The Expanse and so on and so forth. So, and as I told our actors, we're creating an ensemble of actors that we want to work with on all these different projects. So Bob Picardo and Gates McFadden and you guys. And,
Repertory.
And you guys,
yeah.
Yes, because it's just so fun and so comfortable and so enjoyable.
I have a cool question about this, but I want to make sure, do we have anything else you want to show before we do that?
There's something else I'd like to show. Now, this is a trailer that shows some of what's coming up. Correct. And we can't reference it specifically by name, but let's just say it's footage from what's coming up in the season.
He really your great-grandfather?
Captain Kimmer, they've found her.
Your name. Can you tell us your name?
And no sign of Dr. O'Dara.
Be safe.
We'll be able to give her a few more days at best.
Vaughn was the hero. I'm just a fatality.
Jack Kemmer, Captain, UPSC Patrol Ship Paladin.
When was she due back?
3 days ago.
There's no time to lose.
Hurry! This is Patriarch Goliath. We are in desperate need.
I know a Space Command officer who can help us. I didn't think we needed an introduction, you and me.
What do you want?
Come to Helios.
Ready landing party armed and T.
Captain Cameron.
This is not your jurisdiction, it is mine.
That man that you're shielding is a monster.
Believe what you may about me, but let's get this done.
Do not let the hatred of one person swerve you from the path of saving many innocent lives.
You wake up every day crying for justice, but justice and vengeance become indistinguishable.
Where is everybody?
Hey! Stop!
Put down the weapon.
No! Deactivate him!
You ever seen a ship like that?
No.
Sweet Mother of God.
These your people?
Yes.
Looks to be a sleeper ship. Suspended animation.
Ah!
Did you just touch that?
Yes. Yes, I did.
You got something?
One reading. Not human.
We're waking it. Just try not to scare it.
Hear that?
Take me! After it!
What's going on out there?
All systems are down.
We're trapped.
Put the weight of the crime on the shoulders of the victims.
Without the faith that we could make a change, I would have died, just as my mother did.
Power core?
It's building towards an explosion.
Thrusters on full.
Go! Go now!
No! Get him out of here!
Our ghosts aren't quiet, are they?
Bring them home.
So yeah, and thanks, Dave. And on that trailer, a lot of the VFX are temps and so forth. So but again, you can see that the scope. We're not just repeating the same story over and over. Over the course of the season, the show it tells a big story and over many generations, and so it's super fun.
Which brings me to my next question.
Yes.
Because it's such an expansive universe, clearly, I was wondering from everybody, what the biggest challenge was in filming this for you guys, from whatever job you were doing it from, because I'm sure you did not do this in a huge monster studio that just happened
On
to
a big
extend
budget.
through the entire universe.
Yeah.
So being that it's crowdfunded, and so I was just
Yes.
wondering what the biggest challenge was for each of you, as whether an actor or a techie. And let's start, well, Tahani didn't actually do that, she did the graphic art, but what about Howard?
Simple. There's a lot of equipment and a lot of fighting, and I prefer using lavalier microphones rather than boom microphones, simply because the sound is much, much better, and the more action, the more chance of damage. So, yeah, we've had our fair share of damage.
David Rakelin?
David?
This has been a wonderful dream come true. We recorded the score for Redemption with a symphony orchestra, chorus, and a real live theremin. That's the instrument that you play without touching anything but waving your hands in the air. And our musicians are from all over the world. We recorded in Europe, we recorded here in Los Angeles, in New York, with different specialists using different instruments to create alien civilizations. We also recruited our on-screen cast to do voiceover work. So the voices that you hear in the Redemption soundtrack, when you go see it at 4 p.m. at the Grand Ballroom number 5,
Of the Marriott.
is the voices of our actual cast. So when Mira Furlan is playing Von Odara on screen, we're hearing Mira Furlan acting like Von Odara singing her theme song. Does that kind of make sense? And we do that with Doug Jones and all the others. And also, there's an alien race. Oops.
Oh, spoilers,
Spoiler. And the alien race needed a language, so we invented our own language. That's called a conlang, constructed language, and we taught our actors to speak, and in some cases sing, in this alien language. So when we're hearing the voices of the aliens, that's our cast playing aliens.
Wonderful.
I just realized I was unfair to Tahani saying that what challenges did she have? This is the first time you did a graphic novel, so what were the biggest challenges for you?
Exactly that. I was looking on, I had to look on internet, like, how to make expressions, or not on, I know how to draw, but what was hard for me was knowing what a panel was, how to construct a panel, what was a panel, I didn't even know that word existed, and all the expressions, like how to make an expression into a comic form, because it's a different format. So, and also just, I taught myself digital art because I was traveling, so I did everything by hand first, so I taught myself digital art at the same time. It was a bit crazy. I used to take about 2 weeks a page. Now I can do them a bit faster.
You have to keep up with this.
That's good, yeah. But again, because we set our own time frame and because we don't have to ask permission, it's fine. I mean, Tahani's work is wonderful, and I'm willing to take the time it takes.
And thank you for the patience.
Yes, you're very welcome. But it's wonderful, and we're almost done with the entire graphic novel. I mean, it's really exciting. And the reason I wrote a prequel was because I had an idea for a story that was 30 years before the first episode, and I wanted to use Michael Harney, but we couldn't make him 30 years younger because we don't have millions of dollars to de-age him. So I thought if I do an audio play, we can have that. And then when I met Tahani, I thought, well, we can tell that story as a graphic novel as well. And it's just been so fun, so wonderful.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a thrill.
Thank you. Dave?
Just having the endurance. We've been at this for a while, and I know people have been patient, and people like what we're doing, but as they say, good, fast, cheap, pick two. We're trying to be good. We've got to be, for lack of better words, cheap, so we can't be fast. So it's just trying to, I say to Mark sometimes, how are you going to do this? And Mark has the terrific answer. He says, I don't know.
Yes.
And we eventually do it. It's chipping away. It's Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
But eventually, well, we need more dynamite is what we need.
Well, it's coming.
If any of you have any dynamite.
Yes.
David Bartlett.
Producing any low-budget projects is a challenge. When you talk about original science fiction, where you're building sets, you're building wardrobe, you're building everything that you see, it's exponential. The most challenging thing I found about producing this was the visual effects. There are 1,800 visual effect shots in 2-hour period. To give you an example of what that's like, 1,800. Well, 1,882, if you want to be precise.
That's crazy.
So, Star Wars, the original Star Wars had 250 shots. Wow. A current Star Trek episode of Discovery or something like that, a heavy episode has 500 shots in 1 hour. That's 1,000 shots. We had almost twice that. Wow. So I was the producer of those shots, and I had to keep track of all the different visual effects artists that were generating those shots and which ones were acceptable and which ones were rejected and which ones had to be redone. Some were redone 8-10 times. Some we got a couple times we got it right. And there's so much to be said about that one particular step, but the visual effects standard is so high now with everything that's out there that is, quote, easily done, that for us to be able to get the same kind of quality on this budget was daunting. And that was the most difficult part of the show that I thought there was. I didn't have trouble doing the sound, I didn't have trouble doing the mixing, the color correction was a little challenging, but this was exponentially much, much higher.
Yeah, but the scene with the dogs was harder.
The scene with the dogs was challenging.
Now let's get to the actors.
And as the editor, getting all of those VFX, the fact that David was able to keep those organized and keep them coming, I'm glad I didn't have to do that part.
Yeah, if each one averages about 6 different versions, times 1,880, that's how many shots went through my hands.
Wow.
With, I don't know how many artists we had. We probably had a dozen visual effects artists that did the bulk of them, and then a few strays here and there with other ones.
And if you look at any major studio film, you'll see dozens, if not hundreds, of VFX
pages
artists.
and pages of these.
So, yes, go ahead.
Okay, actors,
Andra.
beat that! Andra.
And quickly, 10 more minutes.
I chose to play basketball for the first time in like 10 years, 2 weeks before we were finally shooting all my action stuff. And I am not a basketball player, and I sprained my ankle. And my friends were gonna teach me how to dunk.
Yeah.
And no, it wasn't a Fisher-Price one. I'm just an idealist. And it didn't work. So then I was like on crutches, and everybody was so accommodating. You guys are so nice. And I'm a bad driver, and I was driving with the left, and Mark was like, no, you're not. Somebody's gonna come pick you up. So yeah, I decided just to ditch the crutches and hop, because they were just too kind. Too kind. It was just a hassle, but it was,
They made it
was
work,
really,
right?
I know,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Ryan.
As Dave mentioned, it's been a journey in Space Command, and when we first started, my hair was longer. It's not long anymore, and now we have a wig. And keeping track of the part of that wig, where it goes, is uncontrollable. It's got a mind of its own. I've asked for its own credit, this wig, but wherever that part goes, that is the most difficult thing about Space Command for me.
Hey, I had hair when we started.
That's right.
Ethan.
For me, the most difficult thing is just, I guess, being present in the scene when you're looking across to your other co-actors that are your science fiction heroes. So it's really, like, I get chills like seeing Michelle and everything.
Thanks, Ethan.
Yeah, you're welcome, Brian. That's what I'm talking about, Brian McClure.
Yes.
But yeah, it's just the, I really don't know if it is a struggle. It's just the family that these guys create to make this happen is something that's unmatched. So I think it's just that. It's just the idea just to, all right, now I gotta act tough. But it's just
And when you
all
see
around, it's a
Michelle
great time.
Nichols, I mean,
I cried just watching the trailer.
I looking at that.
Well, I met
We
her
shot that in her home.
I met her when I was 10, when she was on Star Trek, and then I went on the set and saw for the filming of the last episode of the original. So to come back all these decades later, and I brought the scrapbook I kept of the letters she'd written me and the photos she had signed, and I sat flipping through that and the articles about her I'd saved from that day, from when I was 10, and so she was blown away, and she signed it that day that we shot with her, and it was a miracle and
There's a
wonderful.
clip of that on the Mr. Sci-Fi channel.
Yes,
So
I have a
look
YouTube
it
channel
up.
called Mr. Sci-Fi that you can check out a lot of this stuff, yeah.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
I'm not going to ask you your challenges because I know there are zillions of them that you solve beautifully. But I have
Nothing.
one weird question. We have one weird question for you.
Of course.
In a hopeful vision of the future, why did you pick the title Space Command?
That's an interesting question. We were batting around different ideas, and this is before the Space Force and all that stuff. And I didn't want to use the word star because there's Star Trek, Star Wars. So I thought space would be kind of fun, and I just want something very simple.
Powerful.
Yeah. And so that's why I didn't want anything that was too funky. We tried a lot of different titles, and it was like, nah, I don't think so. But the fun part is that the next episode we're going to shoot after this one jumps 20 years. So Brian, we're going to, give him a scar and so forth, and
Make it bald.
yeah,
Give him a big
exactly,
bald patch.
exactly.
A real scar.
And one thing I did want to mention is that over the course of the years that we've been doing this, it's financed by Kickstarter campaigns and then also selling investment shares of $7,500 each. And our investors have stepped up and been wonderful. And this is a labor of love, clearly. Down the road, we're already being approached by distributors. We'll see after the strikes if we place the first season of Space Command with some big buyer. But regardless, because of the internet, we've already reached millions of people who love this show. And for me, this is a dream come true, working with these wonderful people, creating this family. All of you are part of Space Command as well. And by the way, we have buttons that Mira's going to pass out. If you want a Space Command button, wear it proudly. But yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. Go ahead.
Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Great.
I appreciate that you brought up about the investment. I was two parts.
Yes.
Question one, are you going to do another Kickstarter campaign?
Yes.
And two, you've been doing this for 8 years, 10 years, I don't know how long.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Since that, at that time, you were kind of the only game in town, at least that I saw. In
Yes.
terms of that. Since that time, you've got Legion N, you've got some other sort of competitors in terms
Yes.
of what you're doing.
Yes.
From an investment standpoint, if I have, say, $7,500,
Yes.
why should I invest in you versus, say, Legion N or something
Well,
like that?
that's a valid question. The reason I think is, first of all, the one thing that really sets me apart is I come out of the studio network world, hundreds of hours of produced shows, Star Trek, Next Gen, DS9, Babylon 5, Sliders, all that stuff. And so I'm the writer, director, producer, along with Elaine. The buck stops with us. And you can see the quality of the show. I think that we are definitely creating the show we wanted to create. And, you watch all these other shows, and there's not that sense of the creator at the top who has the vision. So some episodes are shitty, some might be good, but they feel very, very kind of flapping in the wind, most of them, not all. But for us, it's like we're gaining ground. We're now being approached by distributors. We have access to actors. I mean, there are tons of very well-known actors who are going to be in Space Command who aren't in it yet. And then once that sells, we're going to do Sweet Haven, the show we're creating with Rockne O'Bannon, that already has Rick Picardo and Gates McFadden and Veronica Cartwright and Barbara Bain and all these amazing, wonderful actors and actresses. And so I feel very confident that we're going to get where we're going. And with Legion M, you can be part of something to a very small degree, and you don't have control over the projects they're choosing. And so it's very hit and miss. The film they did about Tolkien's life, I mean, I didn't see it. It was probably good, but it kind of came and went. Or the documentary about Alien, it's like, it's kind of all over the map. They're kind of like firing at the walls, hoping something will stick. And, but with Space Command, you can see what it is, and you can see who it is. And by the way, our investors are welcome to come on the set, be part of it. We put some of them in pilgrim's robes last time and filmed them. Amira Lacous, who's one of our investors, has been an alien, was brilliant. And, and so you're part of the family. So it's not just giving us money and then you go away. It's that you can come on the set anytime you want. We take our investors out to meals whenever we're at Comic-Con or in town. They're included, very much included.
Part of the team.
Yes, and so, when I was a kid, if someone had said to me, you can invest in Star Trek and be part of that world, and if Gene Roddenberry or Rod Serling were alive now, they'd just do a Kickstarter campaign for the next season of Star Trek or for Twilight Zone or whatever. They didn't have that luxury, but we do. But for me, to be part of that, to be able to go on the set and talk to the actors and hang out with them and be part of the family would have been, it was magical for me to meet Nichelle Nichols, to go on that set. And so I love welcoming everyone. I'm a fan, and I don't see a line of delineation between me and any fan. I'm the same.
And you can tell just listening to these people and how
Yes.
they got into this project, this is
Yeah.
a family.
Yeah.
These people, after all this time, are a family.
It's very much a family.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
I've been on hundreds of sets,
Yes.
and quite frankly, these people will be my friends for life.
Yes.
Yeah, you can feel your passion and your commitment and how much you adore and love each other and
Well,
care.
yes. Well, I think coming up in the Hollywood system, I was amazed and appalled by the cruelty and the arrogance and the stupidity of that system. How it just chews people up and spits them out and has no gratitude, no... I don't mean to badmouth it. It's been very good to me. But the reason I started my roundtable with Elaine 30 years ago is I wanted to create a compassionate Hollywood that would be, by extension, all around the world. And in our work, there's consistency. We're authentic, and that's why all of these people feel the way they do. And, you don't have to be an asshole to succeed in Hollywood. But, but you do have to be mindful. And you have to respect people and view them, all of the people in this panel and all of you in the audience, you're my partners, you're my collaborators. I'm the only one who has to do this, and everyone else is doing it out of the love of their heart and out of their talent and out of all of that. But, Elaine, it's like, poor Elaine, she's stuck with me. We've been together 46.
She's still smiling.
Yes, we just celebrated our, yes, that's my wife there behind Mira. Wave your hand, Elaine, so they know who you are.
46 years of marriage.
Well, yeah, Elaine and I have been together 46 years, and just celebrated our 46th anniversary. And, she met me when I was a 20-year-old student at UCLA. She had no idea of what the journey was going to be. Yeah, but she certainly, but so that's...
She's made the biggest investment.
Yeah, but so that's the end. And
Thank you.
so in terms of investors, we send them the paperwork and answer all questions, and it's a very simple process.
Let's
So-
introduce our panel.
Any
Mark
last words?
Zickrey, Ethan McDowell,
Yeah.
Ethan McDowell, Brian McClure,